Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I know it's been a while. Today, we are kicking off another episode of our series of the EdTech Disruptors. Today, we are sitting down with co founder Patrick Boylan. We'll hear about his journey from becoming an actor and all about how he learned traditional piano lessons to becoming an EdTech founder, leveraging the power of AI to disrupt the music space. We'll hear and have some laughs along the way, so we hope that you will tune in, turn it up, and as always, let's get ready to do this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Leena Marie Saleh, the EdTech Guru. I want to thank you so much for spending time with me on this journey, for all the support that you give me, and for following along. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and let's get ready to do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we are joined by Patrick Boylan, co-founder of Muse Flow. Patrick, how are you doing today?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It feels good to be in my first episode back after maternity leave. So those of you who are watching, sorry if it's a bit rusty, but here we are. We're back at it and
Hey,
we're moving and grooving.
congratulations. You're a beast. You really are.
We only do the best that we can. All right. So I'd like to kick it off learning a bit about you, and then we'll learn a little bit about MuseFlow and exactly, the history behind it.
Yeah. Well, I started off, I came out here to LA about 11 years ago. And started off as an actor. I got representation right out of college, and I then moved out here. I was between LA and New York, and I had family out here, so I was like, let's go to LA. And I got representation out here, so did that. I worked on that for about 5 years, just really hitting the pavement hard. Worked in restaurants, did some movies, couple TV shows, couple commercials, like the whole thing. Um, and then I just started getting really depressed because I wasn't really like fully making it. You know, I wasn't truly paying my bills off. And so then my girlfriend at the time, wife now, she she was like, Pat, why don't you go play piano? What are you doing? Why are you not? Because I've been playing piano my entire life. Um, I took 8 years of lessons. And then I just kept playing for friends back in college. I ended up getting a key to one of the concert halls back in college, and I was lucky. I got it passed down from a senior to me when I was a freshman. And I had that for 4 years. And so I was able to go into the concert halls and play for people and like bring friends there half drunk and like enjoying just vibing and singing and playing and improving with everybody. And so that was my playground. That was really, really great. Learned a lot of songs because of that. And she's like, "Why aren't you going to play piano? Like that's your passion." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to I don't want to bastardize my love for piano. How everybody talks about, doing your passion and then turning it into your profession, how you can kind of strip away some of the love for it." And I
Mhm.
was like, "I don't want to like bastardize my love, my pure love for piano." And she's like, "Pat, you're an idiot. You're an actor. You wear your heart on your sleeve. You're doing that. What are you doing? Go try. And if you hate it, then you hate it. But at least go try." And I'm like, "Fine, don't yell at me. I'll go try." And so I went and I tried, and immediately I just started getting returns on that. I got my first gig as an accompanist over at an after-school program called California School of the Arts. I started playing for auditions around town. This will I'll talk about this a little bit more with MuseFlow and how the idea came about. But I'm pretty much able to sight read any musical theater piece out there. Um, and that's because I taught myself basically how to, after the 8 years of lessons, I kind of taught myself a very specific way, and I'll go into that a little later. But played for auditions, I played for other people, and then I started getting like I got a background jazz gig over at Maggiano's, playing on Sundays there, just sitting down at the piano and playing a bunch of jazz tunes for the bar for like 4 hours. And then I got Tramp Stamp Granny's, which is a piano bar I play at here in Hollywood still. Um, and then I was able to actually like make my living off of it. That by that point, I had so many gigs around town that I was able to actually like make a living off of it. So I quit my serving job and in West Hollywood, and I was able to actually focus on piano. And so that's what I've been doing. I still narrate audiobooks. Like I still do a lot of VO stuff. During the pandemic, I got a little bit more into audiobooks, and I created my sound studio, my recording studio. Um, and I was able to get more into VO and audiobooks and everything like that. But like I do that during the day, and we were building Muse Flow as well, and I'm maintaining and building that with my team, and then I play piano at night. So that's my life.
Kind of a jack of all trades. It's a good
Jack of
story that I
Jack of
think.
three trades, Jack of three trades. Yeah.
All right, we'll take the jack of three. I think what's interesting, and I think this will bring us into, how you created MuseFlow and kind of how that kind of came to be. But I think um you said something, and I think that a lot of my audience struggles with, and that's like, what happens if I follow my passion?
Hmm.
And what
Interesting.
kind of like, what will be the burn rate if I do it? And I think a lot of people
Right.
get really hesitant about following things like that because you're afraid it's going to take the joy away. And it could. There's nothing that can ever say that that won't happen. But I
Right.
think more times than not, when you follow your heart and something that you're passionate about, sometimes you get like a new reinvigoration for that passion.
I totally agree, actually.
And
Yeah.
so, um, I would guess that that's what kind of led you to starting MuseFlow. And can you tell us a little bit about what it is and then how the story came to be?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, well, still going back, I want to, comment on the fact of like following your passion. There are people, and I think the majority of people that you're going to hear this from are people that didn't follow their passion, but to make it their job. You're going to hear a lot of people talk about like they don't want to bastardize their hobbies. They didn't want to like ruin the love for this pure thing that they do just for the love of it. And I'm like, sure. But if you're doing it day in, day out, you're you're going to fall more deeply in love with it. And that's exactly what happened for me. I'm able to entertain a crowd of 400, 500 people a night playing at Tramp Stamp, and I'm throwing my all into it. And I'm loving every minute of it because I'm engaging with a crowd. I'm playing songs I love and new songs that I don't know, right? And I'm throwing my emotional energy into something I truly love for a sustained period amount of time. You want to talk about flow, performance, and doing what you love for a sustained period amount of time, that's flow inducing. And that is key to any sort of sense of happiness, right? What I'm 100% behind people following their passions and trying to make a job out of it. It is called show business at the end of the day. So you do have to do a little bit of business, but it's going to be less than what you would be doing as a day job if you would just be doing business for 8 hours a day. That's my 2 cents on that, right?
Yeah.
Um, Talking about MuseFlow, right? So I I had an idea one day. I was like, well, what if okay, so let me tell you how I ended up teaching myself pretty much how to play piano. I did take 8 years of lessons, private lessons. My teacher came every Sunday to our house and sat down with me at the piano for an hour and started his little timer. He took his shoes off at the door and put his little booties on and walked to our. He was adorable. Randy Balkis. Shout out to Randy Balkis. Love the guy. He was great. Um, but we definitely did the traditional way of learning how to play an instrument. He gave me a new skill to learn, whether that's a new rhythm or a new note, a new time signature or whatever. Give me a new skill. Like, here's a new skill that you're going to learn this week, right? Now go home. Now, well, go home. I was home already. Here's a song that you're going to learn um, that exercises that new skill. Okay. I was like, okay, great. So I did that for 8 years. Here's a new skill. Here's a song. Practice it for the week. And then I'll come back the next week and stamp approval. Or if you didn't do it perfectly, you're going to do the same song again until it's perfect. That was so boring for me. That was so tedious. I hated it. When I started playing piano and I wanted to start doing lessons, my parents were like, it's a lifelong hobby. And I'm like, I'm in it. I want to do it. And they're like, okay, I just want to make sure that it's going to be a lot of work. And I was like, I really want to do it. Let's do it. My parents held me to that. They grounded me if I didn't practice. And so I hated it. I hated the process. It was pulling teeth to get me to practice these same songs over and over. And so I barely progressed. I mean, 8 years of lessons, you would think I would be very, very good by the end of it. No, I was terrible still. I was able to read sheet music, yes. But when my teacher retired after 8 years, no fault of my own, he just retired. Um, I ended up stopping piano for I don't know, about a month or two, right? Just stopped playing altogether. And then I missed it. And I really wanted to get back into it. So I ended up going to my parents' sheet music and flipping through some of their music and finding little motifs, little phrases that I really, really loved. Something that just the kind of just I just was drawn to, right? Very small, very minor, like a couple notes here and there. And then I just closed the sheet music and played that phrase, that motif over and over, improvising around it, putting it in different musical contexts, putting it in my right hand, putting it in my left hand, transposing the key, inverting it. I did a variety of different things with these phrases. And I just kept doing that over and over and over. Now that's how I learned how to play piano. I was able to then, and I realized this years later, when I was in college playing for a bunch of my friends, I realized that those phrases kept popping up over and over and over in different music, right? From genre to genre, from composer to composer, whatever. It just like those that kept popping up, right? We are generally drawn to patterns, and I recognize that pattern, whether it's a rhythmic pattern or a note pattern, and I was able to play it at first sight without any practice. So that got me to actually be able to sight read. That's what we call it, sight reading, the act of reading music at first sight. I was able to sight read pretty much any musical theater piece by the end of that sort of process, right? And I keep doing that to this day. I find little bits, little pieces here and there, and I put them in different. I should close the book and I improvise around it, just playing with it. And then when I go back to a completely different song, I'm able to see that pattern and recognize it. And my body kinesthetically recognizes, oh, that is a pattern that I've already played, and I can just play it. So I was like, what if I was able to replicate this for other people and mass produce it so that other people can actually learn piano that way? Because I'm telling you, it was a lot more gratifying to do it that way. It was much more fun and engaging and flow inducing, you know? And so I came up with the idea of what if there was music that never repeated, that continuously generated and exercised a certain specific skill within the context of music that you already know. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. So I brought that to my friend Stephen Gizzy, who's a music teacher. And he was like, wait, really? I've had the same idea. And he pulls up all of these notes that he has on like generative AI and writing sheet music on the fly and adapting to users' performance and everything like that. And I'm like, oh man, this is the long-term goal. This is the idea, you know? And so we started working on this together, talking and discussing the content. And we just have like dozens and dozens of hours of recordings of us just like talking about it, right? Fleshed it out. And then we were like, okay, well, we got a great idea. Let's bring it to investors. Um, and uh, and they were like, we talked with a couple of investors, and they were like, so have you ever like done a business before? Have you ever made a business before? And we were like, no. And so they were like, there were two guys that we talked with at different VC firms, and they're like, okay, you need a proof of concept for this, and then we can talk. You need to show that you can actually build something. We actually didn't bring it to anybody. It was really amazing how this like organically came to be. We started putting out the intention to like, okay, we want to find software engineers, and so we ended up talking with a good friend of Steven's from home named Tucker. He's a data scientist. He's created a bunch of ML models, machine learning models, and generative AI. It's under NDA, so we can't really talk about like where he did that, but that's his career. He's a data scientist, and he makes really really good money doing that. And so we brought it to him, and he's like, "This is a really cool idea. I'm totally down to join." He was our first co-founder, our first technical co-founder. And then we were on a really great hike with a good friend of ours, Stephen Staley, up in Malibu, in the Malibu Hills. We just went on this long hike one day. And we told him all about it during that hike. And he got obsessed with the idea of using generative AI to create sheet music at a certain level of difficulty that never repeats, that a user has to play. He's a back-end engineer, so he's obsessed with all the databases that he would create. And it just kept him going. And he like creating and then also using the data from what a user performs, using that to influence what they will play next, you know? to keep them in this flow state where the challenge of the music that they're playing matches their skill level. And so he was obsessed with that. He ended up creating a pitch deck to pitch himself to us. And we said, like, we love it. Yeah. Like, yeah, we're honored because he's a lead engineer over at Oscar Health. And we were like, yeah, we would love to have you on board. So he's our second technical co-founder. Our third technical co-founder is great. His name is Andrew Urbanowitz. I ended up going into Maggiano's one day, and it was some Sunday, 2 years ago, and I see a guy sitting at the piano playing, and I'm like, nobody's ever like sitting at the piano just like playing. He was playing something beautiful like Chopin or something like that, right? And I went up to the regulars, and I'm like, who is that guy? And they're like, we don't know. He just like sits down and plays sometime. What are you gonna do? Go kick him off? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go talk to him. And so I end up going over to him and being like, you're really good. Who are you? He's like, oh, my name is Andrew. I just come in and I play here sometimes. And I'm like, do you want to go back and forth? Like you play a song and then I play a song, you play a song and then I play a song during my shift here. Like I'm supposed to start playing, How about we do this? We do that. And as we do this, we start talking about, oh, he's a software engineer and he's a classically trained pianist. Oh my God, I showed him my pitch deck for MuseFlow. I buttered him up. I bought him dinner, a couple drinks. We talked about his life. I talked about my life. We totally vibed, and he really loved the idea of MuseFlow, and so he came on. He was our third technical co-founder. So it's us five that are building this thing. Yeah, and so that brings us to today. We have our sight reading trainer that we've currently built. It gives people music at a certain level, music that just keeps going. You just keep playing until you get 95% accuracy at the goal tempo for 4 phrases in a row. That's 4 phrases. That is 4 measures creates a phrase. And then you have to do 4 of them in a row to that at 95% accuracy at the goal tempo to pass the level. So we've gamified it a little bit. The music just keeps going, and you can choose where you want to like kind of hit where you want to start. We have levels 1 through 26. It starts with 1 note, 3 rhythms, both hands. And we just build you from there incrementally, like including a new skill, a new rhythm, a new note, a new time signature into the music that's being generated for you. And so you're learning music through sight reading. It's a whole different way of learning music, but it is ultimately how I learned how to play piano. And I'm a professional pianist. And so we were like, this is such a fun idea. And so we're really grateful. We have about 30 people that are using it right now, and we're looking for more.
Okay, lots to unpack in your story. One, I feel like I'm in an episode of How I Built This when at the end he always asks, is this a bit of luck or was it just right timing? It feels like a bit of luck thrown in with some timing, kind of like all together that you just, I don't know, just feels like everyone just kind of came together symbiotically to, kind of build this product. And then I think it's interesting, obviously I'm all about ed tech and learning and that sort of a thing. And I think it's interesting that we talk about ed tech as as education being only specific to the classroom, but that's not actually how education works. Education works in a variety of ways, in a variety of use cases. And I'm not a musician, so I can't speak to this, but from what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that music has always been taught in a certain very traditional manner, it feels. And so that can be cumbersome to somebody's learning and to be able to achieve because not everybody learns in that traditional way, nor is it that thrilling, sounds like, to learn in that manner. So it can become very boring. And probably that's where a lot of kids probably like, oh, I want to learn piano and I want to, learn that at a certain way. And then you start doing it in this really boring, old school way, which is cool. I can understand how it can work for a lot of people, but most people don't learn that way. And so being able to integrate the intersection between, education in an ed tech way through generative AI is actually quite interesting, because I don't think a lot of people think about it in that way. And I think a lot of people, when they think about ed tech, they think of it being learning through math, science, social studies, maybe
Hmm.
computer science, but not necessarily think about it in the way of music or
Yeah.
art, I think. And then using generative AI with music, I don't think people think about it that way either. I think we see people, doing DJ tracks or, playing with SoundCloud or, whatever, that sort of thing, but not in the way of using it to help you learn. And so I think that's very interesting to kind of intersect all of those things tied in with your passion. So you said you had about 30 or so people learning that way. So how are you finding the metrics of how people are learning? Are they love learning in this different way and different approach, or what has sort of the feedback been so far with using it in this generative way?
I think one of the key metrics here is that we have zero churn since starting. We put this out into the world about a year ago, and it's slow. Of course, it's slow to start. Nobody does this. Nobody built an EdTech SaaS B2C app, bootstrapping it with no funding. Nobody does this, right? So I think one of the biggest things that we're recognizing is that it's a really cool idea. People are loving it. And yes, we've had zero churn. Nobody has canceled their subscriptions since starting. I would say about half of these people like came in about 6 months ago. Like we had about 15 or so people about 6 months ago, and then it's been about 15 people since up until now. Yeah, nobody's canceled their subscription, and they're all using it, and we're seeing their metrics. So it totally ranges in use case. It ranges from an 8-year-old using it with their teacher. So that's our B2C, right? Sorry, our B2B, our B2B. Our B2B is private teachers currently, okay? We've got a couple teachers that are using it with their students as a sight reading trainer, okay? Um, and so like a couple like different 8, 11, 12, like I know all of them. And I love talking with them about MuseFlow and about their journey and everything like that. And so they're using it with their teacher. We've got a couple people that have completed the curriculum we have so far, and all they want to do is sit there with their keyboard, play MuseFlow at the highest difficulty, but lower the BPM, the beats per minute, the tempo, lower that 1 beat per minute, so they're not at the goal tempo, so they never pass the level. So they just keep playing music at the highest difficulty ad infinitum, and it's flow for them. They really love to just drop in and play. And then we have other people that are currently progressing through the curriculum. They're actually going, but some of them are jumping all around. They're going to level 20, so going to level 2, going to level 15, 26. It totally, what we're realizing is that the use case is very, very, very vast in something like this. It's just simply from dropping into flow to being a sight reading trainer with their private teacher. It totally ranges, and the demographics are just all up in the air. We can't find the perfect demographic to pitch this.
But I think that is okay. Like, I think we often think
Yeah.
like, oh, we need to have this circle go into a circle, but that's like not always how it works. And I think that
Right.
especially with regards to music, I think there can be a variety of use cases, and that's okay. There's never like one linear pathway to get anywhere. And any founder you've ever talked to, any co-founder, any regular person has never taken the same journey to get to where they're going. And I think that that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. We are constantly being told by VC firms and other co-founders of other apps and such to like find your demographic, find your niche, find the one specific person that you can book, know you can get them to subscribe, and then go after them as hard as you can. And we're like, we don't know. I'm right there with you. I'm like, I don't know if I want to,
Mhm.
because I do want to find more use cases for MuseFlow. And this is only one sliver of the product. We think about it as a three-pronged approach to music education, right? You've got the sight reading trainer, which is the technique aspect of it, the actual playing the instrument itself. You have to figure out the muscle memory of like playing certain patterns across the keyboard, right? That's the technique. Number 2 is the theory section. Okay. That's our exercise section where you can dive deeper into concepts that you're interested in, right? That's understanding why you're playing certain things a certain way, why music is constructed this way, right? And then you've got repertoire, which are songs, actually applying the skills that you're learning in the sight reading trainer, applying that to actual songs that you want to learn. That's currently that we're about to release that in 2 weeks. Actually, our repertoire library currently has 100 songs, and they get unlocked every level that you pass in the sight reading trainer. So again, it's all gamified. It's all, you know. So yeah, you then go apply the skills. So that's the three-pronged approach to music education. That has been pretty standard through forever, through millennia. So, but we're just kind of like co-opting it in this like flow-inducing, gamified sort of way, turning it into a B2C app. But it's also like very applicable to teachers being able to use this. We do want to talk with teachers about getting this into the classroom. We think this is, if we do it right, this is a music education revolution. If we're able to reframe music education as this personalized, fun, engaging way of progressing in skill building, if we're able to institutionalize this and turn this into an actual curriculum that teachers can use, then I think this is $1 billion idea. But that's just me.
I definitely don't know the music industry, so I can't like speak, I can't speak so much to the music part, but I do know that, I work with a lot of ed tech. I've been in a lot of ed tech, and I don't think that there is a lot of people that it's always the traditional, aspects that they're trying to disrupt. So I think it's what I loved most about this was, that there is a different, I just think that there is more out there than just the regular traditional pathways of things. And I think anytime that you can bring, technology with gamification and doing different style, different approaches where people are excited about what they're doing and they can, ignite their passion and flow, then that's really important. And so I think that you can feel your enthusiasm. So then that means that other people can feel the enthusiasm. I think passion is built it's built throughout. It's laced inside of products. And when people are passionate about it, you can feel it on the other side. This is why I do what I do, is that I want people to be able to, share their passion and kind of where, how they got to this point, because I think it's important. I think sometimes we just see the product and we don't see the story behind the product. And I think sometimes you have to have both.
I think, yeah, you do God's work. Let me tell you, you learn. I think it's really cool getting to hear the story behind it, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm extremely passionate about it, and I do think that is laced. We're extremely detail oriented, so we're not going to release a half-ass product or a half-ass feature. It's just in our blood. Me and Steven are like so detail oriented. Sometimes our engineers hate us, but they also understand, they've bought into it. They also like deeply understand that like it's extremely important, especially with a product like ours, to be detail oriented and make sure that the flow and the user experience is not interrupted, So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's where the passion really shines, is the user experience, and we're extremely diligent about making sure everything works, the way it should.
You should be doing iterating and, and making sure that, nothing is ever going to be 100. I think that's just how it goes. But I
Yeah.
think making sure that the user has a good experience is important. I think sometimes we get so backlogged on the back end of like what it will be, what the data will be, what we're wanting it to be, that sometimes we forget about the user experience. And if the user doesn't have a good experience, then the whole thing is just, honestly, it's just dead in the water. Like that's just how it goes. So like it's very
Interesting.
important to hear from you as a founder. Like, I'm focusing on the user experience. I think sometimes that gets lost. In the amount
I
of
think
things
that
that I've vetted and checked out over my years, sometimes the user experience is the last thing that's actually thought about.
I think that especially comes with like technical co-founders. If they're the ones leading the charge and they're engineer driven and they're engineer focused,
Yeah.
yes, you can lose the UX out of the whole thing, But I think with a product like ours, we need to think about immersion very, very thoroughly. We need to make sure that you can immerse yourself in this world of MuseFlow. And we want to eliminate all distractions, right? And so Any sort of hiccup in the flow will just be just that, and it'll ruin it. So we've had to convince our technical co-founders that UX is extremely important, but they've also had to teach us a lot. They've had to teach us that you can't build the whole product at once. You can't. You got to ship little features here and there. We've had to pare down. Like we have our three. We've had this whole idea mapped out since day one. And I know the founder of Canva also was the same, right? She had the whole idea, the macro, like completely filled out. And that's what investors were like, this is $1 million idea. Let's do it. Right. That's why they got behind it. We've also done the same. We have this whole fleshed out ecosystem of features that we really want to build. But our technical co-founders have had to pull us back and say, okay, what is the proof of concept? What is the minimum viable product?
Or
yes,
that minimum viable product. Yeah.
That big section that you want to make in the app. Give us the MVP and we'll build that to start. So we've had it's a whole wonderful conversation that we've been having, like, give and take, that between the creative co-founders and the technical co-founders. And I think we've done a pretty good job at it. Just a little friction, but it's not anything to write home about. Like, we're still really good friends at the end of the day. And we've been working on this thing for 1.5 years together, and we're not ready to stop. Like, we're going to keep going until the whole thing is fleshed out.
I think something that you noted, and we'll talk about the experience of being, of a founder of a product, is the MVP. I have also worked with a lot of EdTech companies who they bring a Ferrari to me and it's amazing and it's so great, but you've never tested the proof of concept. And so sometimes you do have to do what you said and pare it down and think about what is it that is actually achievable for you at this time. And as much as we want to do everything that we can all at one time, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense until it's expensive, right? You can't just you can't just be like, oh, I wanted to have Ferraris are expensive, and you have to think about how can you take the baby steps to kind of get to that Ferrari eventually. But I think having an MVP and making sure that it's, that's important. And I think making sure that it sounds like you're listening. And sometimes that doesn't always, bode well, but it sounds like it's been a good symbiotic relationship between the technical co-founders and you as the non-technical co-founders, being able to kind of marry where it is that you want to go and how you can get there between those.
I think I learned all of that as an actor. It's one of my favorite things to do. And as a collaborator, right? I got into the business of show business. I got into it because I love taking direction. I really, really do. I'm egoless when it comes to art. Our decision making at MuseFlow is egoless. It's meant to be very product focused. So our egos, we've already stripped that out. It's not about if you're right or I'm right. It's about what's best for the product. And I think that I get that from why I got into the entertainment business in the first place. I love to collaborate. I love to take notes. It's not about what I think is best. If I can prove it to you that my thought is best for the product, great. Then it's what's best for the product. But if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. No problem. Let it fall by the wayside. So that's something I love to do, is collaborate and listening to our technical co-founders and taking everything that they say into consideration, even though if it's completely off the beam. I don't know if there's a Star Trek Next Generation is also a something I love to reference. My dad was like, I abide by the Picard method of management. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, well, Jean-Luc Picard is the captain of the Enterprise in Star Trek Next Generation, which we watched all the time and when we were kids. And what he does is he listens to everybody. He listens to absolutely everybody. It is completely open, whatever anybody can say. Okay? The room is clear and open. And then Jean-Luc takes it all in and decides what's best, right? And we kind of do that similarly as well. Everybody has a floor. You can say whatever you want. It is we consider it to be a republic, right? Everybody can say whatever you want about what you believe is correct. And then Steven, our CEO, will make the decision on what to do next. And he is very, very good at being product focused and egoless when it comes to his decision making. And so we all respect his decision moving forward. That's just what we do.
It's just important. So, what are some of the hardships that you faced being a founder?
Patience, because we are bootstrapping this. And I'm not a patient person. I've had to actively take a back seat on certain things because I knew that my impatience would disrupt the building of a feature. Um, I'm not the one to dictate timeline. Our technical co-founders are the ones to dictate the timeline. And I had to learn that, you know, we're all doing this on our free time. And that was something that I had to really come to grips with, was like, I'm not going to be able to impose a timeline here. Even though I'm the manager of these people, technically, they've got their lives and they're doing this for equity. Patience was one of the biggest things. I always think about it in, you get the triangle, you get like money, time, or effort. That's what it takes to make a product, right? And you can have a lot of time and money. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You can have a lot of money and effort. It's not going to take a lot of time, right? But we only have effort and time, no money. So it's going to take a lot of time, you know. We will be ready within the next year or so to actually start looking at investments from VC firms. We will, but we're not there yet. We don't want to give up a big chunk of our equity. We want to have a really solid product that is worth a lot of money. We want to flesh this out as much as we can, and then we want to get investments, inject it into it, and then it's just going to skyrocket, right? That's at least the goal. So it's a lot of patience. Collaboration is also very interesting. I've never really talked tech with anybody before. Listening to our technical co-founders and being able to understand them and not get bristled by some of their thoughts or whatever. Again, stripping away the ego from the whole thing. That's also been pretty difficult because, I mean, like, people talk differently. People are very, very blunt, or people are very, very verbose. I talk a lot. And so, like, we've had to really figure that out together, you know? But what's really core here is our friendship, and we laugh a lot. We get along really, really well. And we're always having a blast whenever we're on a call. We're always laughing, and we're not curing cancer here. We're trying to make music education better, right? Like, yeah, it's $1 billion idea, but like, let's have fun while we're doing it. Well, otherwise, what's the point? You know? That's something that I very much I want to make sure to like keep injecting into the process here, is like, let's have fun while we're doing it. Otherwise, what is the point? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the two things: communication styles and patience. Those are the two things.
I think those are all important, especially when you do have more of the technical side. It's usually very to the point.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to manage, those kind of expectations and kind of, it doesn't matter. Anytime you work with a bunch of people, you still have to like
Right.
manage your expectations and your patience and collaboration. But especially when something is taking time and when it's taking effort and when it's taking, those types of things and you're working towards an end goal. Um, I think that can be undervalued, but it's a really important part of the process.
Totally.
So where do you see, taking the journey of all the things, where do you see the future of music education heading? Obviously, we know generative AI is playing a role in things, and we're seeing music just change in general. Also seeing how people access music in general has changed,
Mhm.
right? Like when I was a kid, I downloaded my shit from, I downloaded my music from LimeWire, like got lots of bugs
Totally.
on my computer. I made
Yeah.
CDs. I recorded tapes when it come on the radio so I could listen to things. And now things are easily accessible and will become more easily accessible as the AI generates more and more and it learns more and more about people's styles. So I'd love to know where you think the future of that, like music, and ed tech, intersection and education kind of collide.
I have always had a vision of like, what if an I mean, this is kind of scary, but like, what if an AI could like teach a choir, right? Um, and I know how you teach a choir. I've been in many, many choirs, and I've taught some choirs before, and I created my a cappella group back in high school and like that kind of stuff, right? So like, I know how we do it. You break it down by part. and you then play that part for the singers, and then they replicate that part, and then you play it again, replicate, play it again, replicate, perfect, perfect, perfect. Great, move on to the next part. Do the same thing. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Move on to the next part. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Next part, perfect, perfect, perfect. Combine two of them, bass, alto. Combine them. Let's hear them together, right? Play those parts together, replicate. And then do the next parts, tenor, soprano, replicate, right? And then just iterate on that. Keep going with that. And then combining more parts, fluctuating and moving. And eventually you have them all singing together at the same time. You play all the parts together. They sing along with you playing it. The teacher listens and picks out any problems, isolates that problem, and then iterates on that problem. Them sing the whole phrase yet again with everybody. And then we keep doing that refining method. And then eventually you got the whole choir singing together. You do that for a phrase at a time, and you build those phrases together. You start stringing them together, right? Eventually you've got a whole song. I've thought about that. I was like, what if you can literally create an AI to do that, to actually teach a choir? I think that is very far off. I don't think that's going to happen within the next 10 years, 15 years even. Like, I think that is like very, very far off. But I do think it's possible. I don't know if that's where we should go, because I think humanity will be lost with that. I wonder if there's some way we can kind of combine the human aspect of music making and music performance with the technical side of music making and music performance. We think about it at MuseFlow as, we can teach you the technical stuff. We can. We can teach you how to play your instrument using generative AI. Okay. And our personalization process of like realizing, okay, so we can recognize that you have a problem with this one specific interval, shall we say, like, you're having an issue constantly with this one specific little phrase or motif, right? We recognize that on the back end using an ML model that we created, and then we give you phrases of music that have more of that in it, so you can exercise that more. You're never going to realize that that's going on, okay? But that is going to be going on in the back end, and soon enough you'll get that specific phrase proper, that specific motif, back up to the level of all these other micro skills that we're measuring, and then you can move forward. We can do that now, which is crazy to me, but that is the very technical aspect of playing. What about the human aspect of playing? What about expression? What about why you're playing the song? What about how you want to play the song? Because there is so much variability in that. The notes are the notes, but when do you want to play loudly? When do you want to play softly? Sometimes the music will denote that. Sometimes it won't. That's up to you to figure out how you want to play it and why you're playing it and what you're trying to express. That is the human side of music making. Okay. That's what's going to connect with an audience. You can perfect it as much as you want, but when you don't know why you're playing what you're playing, there's no point. So I think an AI is probably going to get you to a place where you can play it pretty proficiently. You can play it fluently. You're very good at singing whatever you want, at playing whatever you want. But then it's about humans. Humans are going to have to teach you how to play, like why you're playing what you're playing, and to express yourself through the instrument that you're playing.
The human element, I think, is going to be the part of the conversation that we'll see probably shift a bit. But I don't know, it's exciting. I'm
I think it
always
is
about
too.
technology and integration of whatever we can do with it. So
I am too. And again, I like, again, we want to include this into the classroom, and we think that it's not far off, where we can have a sight reading class that is at the university level, and MuseFlow is the curriculum, the pedagogy that a proctor basically just gives to their students and says, hey, yeah, here you go, practice levels 1 through 3, of MuseFlow. You got rows and rows of keyboards in a classroom, everybody on headphones with an iPad on the keyboard. and it's all jacked into the iPad, and no sound is happening except through the earphones and the keyboard. But you can't hear the keyboard when you're like out in the world, right? And so it's all this like personal one-on-one happening. And that's going to teach you technically how to play the instrument. But then we really don't want to forget the human element. We want you to go and apply that technique to songs that you want to learn with a teacher, right? So we'll have the technical side being directed by an AI, and then we'll have the human side being, of course, directed by the human. We never want to lose that.
Yeah. I think with education, I think that's always the fear, right, of teachers and generative AI and the technology and whatever is that it's going to be a replacement. But the thing about the way that we are, and we still need human connection. We still need that piece. So like we can't think about it as being a replacement. But in
It's
addition,
not,
I think an
yeah,
enhancement, I think if we think of
yes.
it as an enhancement, it makes it better than being like, oh, that's just going to replace me because
Or,
technology isn't going to stop. It just won't stop being in it, of the world that we live in. So
or an
it's,
outsourcing, right?
yeah,
Like an outsourcing of the boring parts of teaching music, which is the
yeah.
technique of teaching music, right? The really fun part as a teacher is the connection with
Hmm.
you as a student and the
Hmm.
music and the teacher. Like that's the fun part. You should see some of I was a clarinetist back in high school as well. And so you should see some of my like clarinet pieces that I've had to do for solo and ensemble. You should see they're marked up so insanely, color coded with the expression markings, dynamics, crescendos, decrescendos, forte, staccatos. Like it's everywhere. And that's what my private teacher got off on. She loved doing that with me. You know, the boring part is the repeating of the phrases, the doldrum of like getting it in somebody's body so that they can play it technically proficiently, right? That's boring. But the fun part, even with and that's what the teacher is going to be focused on. I think about it as an outsource. You outsource the teaching of technique to an AI so you as the teacher can focus on the fun parts of what music is actually is, you know.
Yeah, I love that. If somebody wanted to learn, somebody wanted to connect with you and they wanted to sign up or learn more about MuseFlow, where would they go?
You can go to the website MuseFlow.ai, and you can sign up for the 7-day free trial. You try it out for 7 days. You need currently the version that we have right now. You need a MIDI compatible keyboard that is hooked up to your computer. That's going to change very soon. We're making this into an app that's tablet and mobile compatible, and we currently have a really killer audio recognition algorithm that is working. We're perfecting and iterating on in our dev environment that we're going to be putting into production very soon, which you can just the idea is that you can put a tablet on your upright piano or your grand or whatever, your electric keyboard, put a tablet right there and just no headphones, nothing. It can hear you, right? That's of course the goal. But right now you do need a MIDI keyboard that you can hook up to your computer. Try it out. Let me know what you think. You can email me at patrick.boylan@museflow.ai or just, shoot off info@museflow.ai an email. I'm always ready to connect with anybody about MuseFlow and talk to them if they have any problems with it. Like I'm always here to troubleshoot. Our team is very good with that. Oh, you have a discount code? I've given you a discount code. It's
Yep.
Guru50. Going to get your audience, anybody who wants to sign up, please feel free to use the discount code. It gets you 50% off for life. That's $3.99 a month or $39.89 a year. $39.89 a year. So it's a really good discount. I think we're going to, of course, be increasing our prices as we increase the ecosystem of MuseFlow, but you will always still be able to get the 50% off that will still be applied. So that's all you guys. Like, please use it. Guru50, Guru50. When you sign up for the free trial, you'll be able to put that in.
Amazing. And I'll put that in the show notes as well as how you can connect with Patrick, more about MuseFlow. Patrick, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your passion of, education and music education with our listeners.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. You've made it this far. We are so thankful that you're here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below, and join us for all of our next videos. Thank you so much for joining us as we disrupt education together. See you guys soon. Bye, everybody.